June 11th, 2012. Today marks the 10-year anniversary of the LA Kings' first Stanley Cup win. It was a crazy time. I remember just a few days earlier, the Kings had taken a commanding 3-0 series lead against the New Jersey Devils. Then New Jersey won Game 4. And 2 nights later on a Saturday, Game 5, New Jersey won on home ice. That was the Kings' first and only road loss of that postseason. So Saturday night turned into Sunday morning, then Monday. So many of the so-called hockey experts were starting to put the 2011-12 Devils, mention them in the same breath as the 2010 Flyers or the 75 Islanders or the 42 Leafs as the only teams at that juncture to come back from an 0-3 series deficit and a win. But I don't know. I was coming home from work. There have been thunder showers all day. It wasn't a pleasant looking day out, but for some reason I went and looked outside. I just thought, it's funny. There wasn't any sense of like nervous energy on my part. I was more excited because the Kings were back home, and and never in my mind that day or that night was I thinking the Devils, like, what if they win and force a Game 7 back in Newark? No, it was just like I was so excited. I just had a feeling that was going to be the night that the Kings would end it. And I got home. Shortly after I got home, game started, and it was electric. I was in Toronto, obviously couldn't be in LA, but just went back and forth, scoreless, and then halfway through the first period, Steve Bernier from New Jersey rammed defensive Rob Scuderi into the boards. And Scuderi was down for a while, bleeding. And I just remember thinking, 3 years earlier, when I was, please don't judge, I was helping my dad cheer on his Red Wings when they were playing Pittsburgh in the finals. But the Red Wings were like pretty much shut down. It wasn't because of so much Crossley or Malkin. It was because of this defensive stalwart named Rob Scuderi. And and I remember the Kings at that point, they were at a critical point in the rebuild, and I said, man, because they said I was a free agent that summer in 2009, and I said, like, man, I hope the Kings sign him. Lo and behold, they did. And and while Scuderi, was never the most celebrated player, his defensive prowess was like second to none. Above pretty much anyone else in the league. So, he was Scuderi 3 years later, really, as the old adage goes, taking one for the team. And I remember just like him lying on the ice, blood dripping, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I have a good feeling this will turn around. Scuderi thankfully was okay, but he had to leave the ice for a while. 10-minute major, game misconduct for Bernier. And on that power play, it was just, Dustin Brown opened the scoring. Staples Center erupted. A few minutes later, Brown scored. Jeff Carter tipped it in, but Brown set up the second goal. Again, it erupted, and then Trevor Moore, and then Jeff Carter. New Jersey got a goal, but then LA got two more, and it was just, and um, it's hard to reflect on how my life was at that point. I was fully vested in the Kings and the rebuild. I could say I was living vicariously through them. Um, because not to garner sympathy, but like there wasn't anything good going on in my personal life. So, uh, and you know, it was the Kings winning was just one of those very special times for me. I mean, personally, but like I'm sure a lot of Kings fans can say the same thing because like I've been a Kings fan since Wilson Gretzky's arrival in '88. But there's so many Kings fans who have who who followed the team long before I was born, and there are even some who didn't become fans until afterwards. It doesn't matter. But it's so strange because, like, as a lifelong Red Sox fan, I remember how I reacted when they ended their curse in '04. Just it was like two outs in the bottom of the ninth in St. Louis where they won, and I had like a pair of big bulky Homer Simpson slippers, and after the second out, I just took them off because I knew once that third out was made, I was going jumping around, just jumping right around the room, the floor in my house, and I couldn't get off the ground with those big slippers on me. So, and yeah, Red Maria hit it back to Folk. You heard Joe Buck to say Red Sox fans have longed to hear it. He was going to underhand it to Doug McCabe, the first baseman. And I thought, as soon as that ball hits McCabe's glove, I'm off. And I was. And it was just... And it's... and it's funny. I remember, like... Because, because there was a lockout that season, so there was no hockey during that time. Ultimately, that year was just canceled. So, it'd be a while before the Kings became relevant again. And I just remember in early 2008, I guess, I think my sister-in-law asked me, are you a bigger Kings fan or a Red Sox fan? And it's like, even though I became a Red Sox fan before I became a Kings fan, I answered that I'm a Kings fan because the Red Sox, even though the Red Sox won '04 and won the previous fall again, they had all the momentum, but. So it's very easy to say I was a big Red Sox fan, but I don't think the right word. I just want to see the Kings go through finally a proper rebuild and win it all. When that'll happen, if that'll happen, I had no idea at that point, but I was optimistic. So, fast forward a couple years, and the Kings just gradually became better. With they already had Dustin Brown on Kopitar, Jonathan Quick was just beginning to establish himself. They had just drafted Drew Doughty. The list goes on. And, the 09-10 season was exciting. 10-11 season became more exciting. The 11-12 season should have been exciting. The Kings kind of regressed that year, offensively speaking, at least. But they squeaked in the playoffs, and just the run they made, the 8th seed, they eliminated Vancouver, which in the first round, which gave me unbelievable joy because the sports networks in Canada, at least I don't know about the U.S., but in Canada, it's like all the fantasy pools, they were all taking Canucks. Everyone was quick to take the Sedins, to take Ryan Kessler, to take I think Kevin Bieksa was one, and a lot of them even said, the best goalie in the playoffs is no question of Roberto Luongo. I'm sorry, Roberto Luongo is a Hall of Famer, and I have the utmost respect for him, but he wasn't even the best goalie in his team that postseason. So, the Kings got by Vancouver in 5, swept St. Louis in 4, the 2nd seed. The 3rd seed got by Arizona in 5, rather. Oh, that was exciting. But, but in Game 6 of the final, as that clock wound down, in Canada, I was watching on CBC, so, the broadcaster, Jim Houston, was just naming off, pretty much everyone, whoever serves the Kings organization in any capacity, the players, Marcel Dion, Rogie Vachon, Dave Taylor. He was talking about Wayne Gretzky, obviously. He's talking about the broadcasters, from Bob Miller to Jim Fox and Nick Nixon, Darrell Evans, to so many others, so many fans, I was hoping it would be a bit closer, to be a bit more exciting, that game, but in the same breath, it was just it was, oh man, it was one of those things where you really, I guess, you're trying to soak it all in. It's oh man, it's about to happen, and of course, as the minutes and the seconds tick down, and then Jim Houston just stops his commentary, just so you can taking this down. The fans, it's chanting for the cup, and of course, those last 10 seconds, and here I am standing. It's counting down with the 18,500, 5, 4, 3. I mean, and the thing is, when that buzzer hit, it was just all the players piled on, and my reaction was a stark contrast to to my reaction in 04, because when the Red Sox broke their drought, I was jumping all over the house and yes, but honestly, when the Kings won, I fell to my knees, and I was just it felt like I was on the verge of tears, but I wasn't, and I was trying to open my mouth, and I was speechless. People say that was probably because of my stutter. That had nothing to do with my stutter. And it's funny. I've always been on the fence about this. Take when the Red Sox won. It's people congratulated me, and I'm I appreciate it, but I'm actually not part of the team. But no, my brother Adam. I thought of him immediately. I called him, and I congratulate him, and because he was the one who It made me a Kings fan. He was the one who was excited um, when the Kings beat the Leafs in '93, and the one who was devastated a week later when they lost to Montreal the years after Gretzky from like '95 to 2000. It was just, uh, uh, it wasn't really a fun time to be a Kings fan. Briefly in the 2001 playoffs, when my dad, a diehard Red Wings fan, decides to go to bed when the Red Wings are up 3-0 in Game 4, thinking, they've got this. They did not. So, anyway, but um, I don't know, especially with the advent of social media for the last decade plus. It, uh, to me, it was like following the Kings. I mean, fans of any team of any sport say the same thing, but no matter our backgrounds or our beliefs or anything, uh, Kings fans share that one common unbreakable bond, and that was not more evident than on the evening of June 11th, 2012. And and I mean, as a person, um, I, I, um, I was a completely different person then, and but so if I reflect on that, even just the next year, um, I mean, I'd still be happy reflecting on it, but not as much. But here I am, 10 years later, uh, just with all the Kings fans, and just thinking, like, that was, from the perspective of a fan at least, uh, that was one of the greatest nights ever. And as we look back on this a decade later, you know, uh, very privileged to see the Kings win a second Stanley Cup 2 years later. And I, and even though the Kings have had some disappointing times since then, um, they've returned uh, I mean, they had quick playoff stays in 16 and 18, but they really made a name for themselves this past year, even though they couldn't get out of the first round. But you know what? I was a Kings fan then. I'm a Kings fan now, and I will be a Kings fan forever. So here is to the 10-year anniversary of the first Stanley Cup win. And here's to everyone who made that possible. Thank you all so much. And today, tomorrow, and forever, go Kings, go. Take care.